All right, in this one we're going to take a look at navigating around our 3D space. So the first option that we have to navigate around our 3D space is to tumble around our scene. To do this, by the way, I recommend a 3-button mouse as this will make it a lot easier, but I will show you how to do it if you don't have a 3-button mouse. So with the 3-button mouse, if you middle mouse click and drag, you can do what's called tumbling or rotating around your 3D scene. How awesome is that? Now this could take some getting used to, as at first you might be kind of tumbling all over the place and it might be a little bit tricky to get the correct orientation, but a little bit of practice and you'll have it in no time. The next option is called panning or moving around the 3D viewport. If we hold down Shift and middle mouse click and drag, you can see that we can pan or move around our 3D scene. Pretty sweet. And then the last one is zooming in and out. Now to do this, we just have to scroll our mouse wheel up or down, and you can see that it will zoom our scene in and out. So again, middle mouse click to rotate, Shift middle mouse click to pan or move, and mouse scroll up and down to zoom in and out. Very, very cool. Now there are other ways to do this. You can see here on the left, we have this tumbling widget, and we also have some other widgets here which allow for us to do these same kind of functions. You can see that here, if I left click and drag in this circle right here, you can see that I could tumble around our 3D scene or rotate around it just like before. You can also see here that we have an X, Y, and Z axis. The X axis is the red one, Y is the green one, and Z is a blue one, which we don't currently see here, but we'll see it in just a second. You could also see that here we have a magnifying glass. If we left click and drag, we could zoom in and out. And we also have this hand right here. If we left click and drag, we could pan or move around. We also have this camera and grid icon, which we'll take a look at in just a second. So this is another option to be able to rotate, pan, and zoom in and out of our scene. And then of course, if you don't have a 3-button mouse, you can go over here to Edit, Preferences, and under here, under Input, you can see that we could emulate a 3-button mouse. Now again, this is if you don't have a 3-button mouse, so for example, a laptop mouse. However, I recommend having a 3-button mouse, so it's much easier and better to buy a 3-button mouse that you could use on your computer. But let's say you don't have one, you could click Emulate 3-button mouse. And now what this allows for us to do is if we Alt, left click and drag, it will tumble. If we Alt, Shift, left click and drag, it will pan. And if we Alt, Control, left click and drag, we could zoom in and out. So this basically allows for us to do those operations if we don't have a 3-button mouse. But again, if you enable this, it will remove some other shortcut keys that we'll use later on in the course. So once again, I recommend having a 3-button mouse. So I'm going to turn this off right here. Next, like I said, we have a camera and little grid right here. If we hit 0 on the numpad, you can see that we could go into camera view. And if I hit 0 again, we will go out of camera view. Or if I just tumble or hit the middle mouse button, you can see that we go out of camera view. And this button does the same thing. If I click it, it will go in and out of camera view. Pretty cool. The next one right here allows for us to switch between perspective and orthographic view. You can see that right now we're set to user perspective. And with perspective, there is perspective or depth to our scene. If I click this, you can see that our scene now is in orthographic. And this basically means that there is no perspective. So the 3-dimensional objects don't have this 3-dimensional aspect to them. They look squashed or more 2-dimensional. So if we click this, it will switch from perspective to orthographic. We could do the same thing by hitting 5 on the numpad, as you can see there. Most of the time you will be in perspective view. However, we also have something else where we could switch to a certain view of our scene. So if I hit 1 on the numpad, you can see that it goes to front orthographic. So this goes to the front view of our scene. If I hit 3 on the numpad, it will go to the right view of our scene or right orthographic. And if I hit 7, it will go to the top view. So these allow for us to move quickly to a certain or specific side of our scene or our mesh. Now let's say we want to go to the opposite. Well, we could do that if we just hold down Control. If we hit Control 1, it will now go to the back. Control 3 will now go to the left. And Control 7 will now go to the bottom. So again, 1, 3, and 7, or Control 1, Control 3, or Control 7 to go to the front, right, or top, or the left, bottom, or back. And in this way, we could get every side of our scene or our mesh, which is super awesome. Now you can see by default, when we switch to one of these, it automatically goes to orthographic. And then if we middle mouse click and tumble out of this or rotate out of this, you can see it automatically switches to perspective view. So again, when you go to one of these views, 1, 3, or 7, it will be in orthographic. And then if we start rotating it, it will switch to perspective. Of course, if we hit 1 to go into front view, we could always hit 5 on the numpad or select this to go to perspective or orthographic view. And once again, if you don't have a numpad, we could go to Edit, Preferences, and here we could select Emulate Numpad. And what this will do is that the numbers on the keyboard will now act as the 1, 3, and 7 from the numpad. So if I hit 1 on the keyboard, it will go to the front. You can see right there. 3 will go to the side, the right side, and 7 will do the top. And then you could hit Control and do that respectively as well. Now again, I don't recommend this. I recommend having a numpad as well, because once again, these keys, the 1, 3, and other keys on the normal keyboard are used for other shortcuts. So once again, I'm going to turn this off, but in case you don't have a numpad, that is an option. But once again, I recommend having a numpad or getting a standalone numpad to have with your keyboard, as that will help a lot. So that is navigating in Blender. Go ahead, try it out, move around the scene and get comfortable with that. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now. Au revoir.